Greetings, it's Compiler and welcome to the Introduction to Blender for Game Developer series. In this video we'll have a look at how can we add textures to our materials and adjust their correct placement. So let's get started. Alright, so first of all it is good to know what are the textures. So each texture is just a simple 2D image containing information about the color or any other components or any other constructs, for example, like we have here in the previous video about material creation, which link to which will be in the description. I have already told you what are the main type of textures that we have. So for example, the base color, so the texture for base color will provide you information on texture. For metallic values, like 0, 1, information with black and white color, whether it's more or less metallic, and for the roughness, is the same thing as for metallicness. So basically, those images, those 2D images that we should add here to our materials, first of all have to be either downloaded from somewhere or painted by hand. So for this tutorial I will use materials from the ambientcg.com. Links to materials will be in the description, and it's quite a good service to provide to get the materials for your models, for your works. So basically I have already downloaded some of them. We can see it here. So for example, as we have roof opened up here, I will add a material for the roof. I found that marble looks pretty good, so I will open it up, and it's somehow like this the material will look like. Okay, so we have the color texture, we have the displacement texture, normal maps, and the roughness. Okay, so I can just simply drag and drop things into Blender, for example the color texture, and it should appear in the form of a node in our shader graph. So basically right now what I have to do is simply to connect the output pin on the right side of the texture node, which has color, to the base color pin on the left side of Principal BSDF node. So I just simply left mouse button click here on the pin and just drag and drop it on an appropriate pin of the output. And already we see something like this. We have applied the color. And it's just a color, so most probably we'll have to add something else, for example the roughness map or the normal map. So I can just drag and drop in the roughness map. So once again I can just pin the color to the roughness and it should do the work. Okay, as you can see here it is kind of glossy because it's marble. I don't want it to be like that, so I will just unplug it, because without that with just manual configuration of the roughness value it kind of looks a bit better than with the texture. And of course I can use the normal map. We have in this case two types, IDX and IGL. DX and GL. DX is DirectX and GL is OpenGL. Blender uses OpenGL, so I will just use OpenGL map. Nothing will happen if you use other type of the map. It will just, let's say, be a bit of inverted. It may look weird, but still will work normally. Okay, and here we can just simply pin the color to the normal, but as you can see right now there are of different colors. Here in the roughness we also had them of different colors like yellow and gray, but in case of roughness map we just have black and white texture, let's say arrays of values. Okay, so basically we can still convert them automatically from the color to the value, but in case of normal maps we have to convert it from color to normal vectors. So basically we can just drag out. If we drop somewhere here in the newest version of Blender like 3.5, 3.6 and higher, most definitely we will see this plus icon near the cursor. So if I drop it right now, it will allow me to add a new node. And the same thing you can do with this add button in the left top corner of the view. Okay, so you can search for normal map, drag this node here and just connect color to color and normal to normal. The only thing that you can have to look at for is, for example, right now it looks kind of nice, but at some point you may realize that normal may somehow spoil the model, and which is probably why you which is probably because you didn't switch the color space from sRGB to non-color, because right now we don't use colors, we use vectors. Okay? So basically, if you do that to non-color, for all the textures that you have, aside from the ones connected to the color node, to the color pin, it would work much better and won't probably make you any problems with that. Okay, so as we can see, we have something like this. The placement of the texture is not the best one, but in this case where we have those tiles, it looks kind of decent. So I can probably leave it like that for now. It still should be looking pretty great. The same thing we can do for any other material. So basically we'll have these wooden beams. I can just once again drag and drop the materials. For example, let's say this wood 62, just drop in the color, drop in the normal, and drop in the roughness. There is no metallic map, as you may notice, because we have wooden material and marble material, and they don't have any metallic values. So basically I connect color to base color, and we can see already now we have a visible problem, and we'll have to fix that. We'll come back later a little bit. So I will just plug in the roughness, set it to non-color, and plug in it to roughness. And normal GL, I will set it to non-color, connect it to normal map color, and just connect it normal to normal. Okay, as you can see here, on the doors, it looks pretty great. It could be better, yeah, if we just adjust the texture, paint over it, add some more details, it could be much better. But for now, just simple application of a texture, this is looking great. Which I cannot say about, for example, these parts, etc. Okay, so this is exactly the problem that you will come by pretty often if you create your own meshes. Yeah, if you don't just use like boxes and spheres of the default object of Blender, if you create it by yourself, you will most definitely get something like this. What is the problem? What is the issue over here? Why, for example, in this place it looks fine, the texture looks pretty decent, but here it looks kind of strange. So for that, I will just simply add a cube, because it would be the easiest example that we can have a look at. I close this last operation window, okay. And now, if we'll go to the workspace called UV editing, which is the fourth one from the left, we will see something like this. Of course, here is our cube, and as we can see, all of the faces of the cube has been plotted here on the left side on a 2D image. Yeah, so basically I can select any of them and it will show me where is it placed in, right? So what does it give me? As you can see, we have 2D image or the texture. Here we have a 2D projection. So basically each model is unwrapped somehow on a 2D image in order to specify what part of the texture should be visible on what part of the model. So basically over here, in those materials, as we can see, the problem is with the wrong placement of the faces. Yeah, but on default, for example, in cube, if we will add a material, for example, this wood material, it will look kind of nice. And as we can see, here it is. I will just switch to the color texture, not normal. And as we can see, something like this. Yeah, so I really don't see any problems with it right now. Okay, I will just exit the edit mode, okay, and we can see something like this. So basically it is connected pretty fine. Of course, the texture is of kind of a low resolution, so if you look it up close, it is not of that quality that good, but still it kind of looks from the far away, it looks kind of nice. As you can see here, all those faces have been plotted, and the only problem is over here and on the other side also, where we don't have a good transition. For example, on these sides we can see pretty easily that these sides are pretty much connected on the texture, right? So basically, if I select this face and this face, you can see that they are placed closely to each other. Yeah, but this face and this one, they are connected only by the one vertex, which is why we see, for example, such a seam over here. In this case, it's not that problematic because here is a corner. So if we have a seam, for example, in a corner, it is not really a problem. Yeah, it may be looking just like that. Yeah. What we will have a look at, you have to have a look at, is the direction of the texture. So basically right now, if you have a beam on each side, the texture of a wood goes from bottom to the top. So basically it looks kind of nice. How does it look like over on the top? Most probably we should have such circular shapes of the wood here. So most probably we'll have to add another material or just paint somehow this one. But still, if we don't see those top faces, the sides should be looking pretty great. Yeah, and there is no visible problem with that. So what we can do here in order to fix the problem. So first of all, we have to have a look at those faces. If I select them, here on an image, we have something like this. So basically, it was really pretty. The layout was really beautiful over here with the cube, which is already visible that it's a cube. It occupies as much space as it has to, and of course everything is connected if it has to be connected. In this case, well, we have, let's say, a line, and all this being, both sides of it are placed just simply over here, yeah, on this one line. So what can we do with that? First of all, we can, of course, as always, configure things manually. So there are some tools. We can drag and drop something and hope that it will work. Yeah. So basically, in this case, I can drag them around. It is not the best approach, definitely, but there is a way to configure it manually. The other way, which is a bit better, but still not the best, you'll have to still do some manual work over here, is when you select a model in the edit mode, you have to select everything. You can go over here to the UV. If you press that, or the U as a shortcut, you have several unwrapping options. So the first one is unwrap. It works kind of in a specific way. Over here, we don't see anything good actually. I will tell you why in a minute. But for example, we have more algorithms that work the same way no matter how we configure, how we change the model. So basically, for example, here we have smart UV project, light map packs, cube projection, cylinder projection, UV projection. Yeah, so these three are, let's say, one of the most important things. So for example, if I use cube projection over here, and as you can see, it already fixes some stuff. Yeah, it just, of course, we have some problems like here, the overlapping faces. And in the best case scenarios, it is best to omit those things. It is better to place those faces somewhere to the side, yeah, in order not to have this overlapping. Because, for example, if you'll want to modify the texture, for example, either in Blender or in Substance Painter, or you may want to just draw on this texture using Paint, Photoshop, or whatever you want, you'll get problems because several parts of the mesh are assigned to exactly the same coordinates of the texture. So painting one, you will get this image on the second, yeah? Which is why it's better to omit that. But still, in case you just want to apply textures and you don't really care about drawing things, you can do it like that. It is just not the best practice, but it is possible, and it still may look nice. Okay. So as you can see here, it is kind of better right now, a little bit. Still not realistic because the lines should go here, yeah, by the diagonals and not on the horizontal lines. And we can, of course, change that. Yeah, so basically I can just, as you can see here, I can just select these parts and rotate them in order to match the texture pattern. So in order to select everything, of course, as you can see by default, we can select vertices as always. On the left top corner, we have different selection modes like vertex, edge selection, face selection, and we have one more island selection. Yeah, so we can try using islands. So if I'll pick that, and the island, as you can see, is one piece of the UV map that is connected. Yeah, if there is a connection with edge between two vertices somewhere, and you can, let's say, starting from one vertex, find a way using edges and other vertices to another one, for example, anywhere else, you will get an island. Yeah, so the connected piece. In this particular case, as you can see, we have this as a connected piece. Yeah, so what I want to do, I want to divide it here because I don't want really to have this connected, because they have to be rotated in different sides. Because if I do it right now, I can fix one of them but still have the problem on the second. Yeah, so I will have to split them. How can we do that? Of course, first way is to split the model. Or select different parts of it. Yeah, so basically splitting goes over here. I can just, for example, select only faces that I want to modify, and that should be pretty good. Yeah, I should be able to move it, and as you can see, not really. Yeah, so what can you do here? If you select some things by default in Blender in the scene, you can just select these parts. I suppose this is the last bit. So basically I selected only the one part of it, and only this part is being displayed. So basically I have right now two islands which I can simply rotate in order to get a pretty good shape. Of course, it may still be not the best because of the direction of the beam. Yeah, it's not pretty much straight, it's kind of a curved one. So basically either you can configure those textures manually, yeah, those vertices, or you can use something which is called an alignment. So basically what you can do, you can here in UV editing select, for example, two vertices here, align them on X, okay, as you can see it didn't really work out on Y, this mirror, okay, sorry, align Y, as you can see in Y, it is aligning on Y provides you them on the one axis, align on X creates them on the one line vertically. So basically I can do the same here, and for just in case I will add them over here. Yeah, so basically what we have a face that is not a perfect square, but it's a perfect rectangle, yeah, with 90 degrees angles. So basically I can just select it, then moving the cursor to any other parts of this island, I can press L on the keyboard. It should select everything else, having this one selected as active. So right now, if I click right mouse button and have clicked this follow active quotes, I will have something like this. Yeah, so everything that we have here follows right now the active element selected. Yeah, so basically what we have is just everything is straightened up. So right now, we don't have a problem of this curvature of the beam because on the UV it's always the straight line. Yeah, so here straight line matches the pattern, and in here in the model it just follows the curve. Yeah, the only thing I would probably like to change is to select this everything, or we can do that in the other way. First of all, fix the second beam. So I can do it like this. If I select only one hard part of the model and now I want everything else, so I can just click Ctrl I. It will select the inverse, so basically everything that is not selected. And right now we can once again first of all rotate it, and then we can once again do this operation, align X here, align X here, align Y, align Y. Okay. Now select this one, follow active quotes, and everything has been normalized. Okay. So if I select everything right now, everything is pretty fine. I can of course adjust the positions of those UV islands if I want for some reason. And of course I would like to increase the scale because I want these patterns on the textures to be a bit smaller. A little bit smaller. The only problem, as we can see here, is increasing it doesn't really increase it uniformly, yeah, because for example this piece, yeah, this loop is in the other place than this loop, for example, yeah, and which is why we have a problem that when you select everything and you move it, you have the movement in different directions. So we will have to just find those problematic places and adjust them manually, for example, to the ones that we have here. Yeah? So this is the way how you work with the cube projection. Of course, it will work only if you have something that is similar in some way to a cube, yeah, or any other object, because if you try to, for example, use cylinder projection, it will try to imagine this object, selected object, as if it was a cylinder and try to project it as a cylinder, yeah. So it may be kind of used for a specific purpose, and of course sphere projection goes the same way, yeah, using it as sphere. So cube projection works in most cases and provides pretty fast and simple results. Of course not the best, but it looks right now much better than it was previously. So I suppose it did quite a good work. So the next option was actually the first one over here. So for example, I will select this part, this model, go to edit mode, and you can see it's kind of a cube, but we still have a problem because it's a stretched cube. We will need to fix that. So basically right now we can use either cube projection once again, just we will have to rotate that and it should be fine over here. Or we can use another option, which is called the unwrap. Okay? This unwrapping, as you can see, in this case, because it's a simple cube, it simply unwraps everything on the model, yeah, and perfectly places it over here on the texture. Yeah. So basically, what do we have? I can click in the unwrap, split the model into the perfect placement of the UV over here. Yeah, so basically, it looks kind of nice right now. In case we have some more complicated shapes, once again, this beam that we have made previously, we can try to do that using the unwrapping options. So if I press the unwrap, we will see something like this. And of course, right now it tries to connect things automatically. It may still not be the best, as you can see over here. It didn't really connect it pretty well. So what we can do with that? Here, if we will select the edges selection, and for example select these edges, I want to set that, okay, using the unwrapping options, I want them to be separate. Yeah, so that if it was a seam over here, I wanted to have a seam in this specific place. So I can just select the whole loop of the vertices, placing of the edges, pressing Alt, left Alt on the keyboard, and then selecting this edge, select the loop. And right now, right mouse button click or the edge selection menu here, and we can find an option to mark a seam. Yeah, if I do that, you can see it marks the object with the red. So now, I suppose it was already done previously with the unwrapping option. So basically right now, as you can see, okay, it spoiled even things a little bit. Yeah, because right now we have modified only one piece of the model. So it tries to adjust the result to this modification. But still, the problem is that we didn't really specify what to do with anything else. So it provided such a bad result. Okay. What does it do? As I said, we just provided a place where we should add a seam of the textures, okay? So as we can see here, the seam is on the middle and we have to somehow unwrap everything else, okay, on the model. And we can see here we have, let's say, a loop. Yeah, here are the loops, and on this end, it's just a cap, yeah, of the cube. So most probably, I will just separate this cap because we won't need that to be connected, actually. So once again, I select everything that I want to mark as a seam. I just selected mark as a seam, okay. And of course, those loops are also not gonna be transferred pretty well to the UV region, to the UV islands, because we have to unwrap it properly on the 2D image, and you can't really do that when you have the loop, yeah, the tube in this case. So in the place where I want the seam to be, I don't know, probably somewhere here it would be nice. I can even add okay, like this. It's not really that visible actually. Okay, in this case it is. So basically I can select, for example, one line up to here, I suppose. Okay, one line, and as you can see, it's not connected here, so I missed the cap. So I will select it here once again. Okay, and now if I press the mark seam, I can clear this one because this one was a mistake. So I can clear seam on this one. Well, once again, clear seam. Okay, and what do we have here? We have a cut here in the middle, the cutted cap here, and the line that should also be a cut, and this line should not be visible for anybody from the outside. Okay, and the same thing we should do here. So basically I will just select this cap once again. Okay, mark it as a seam. It is important to make correct loops, so if you miss something and there is a space in between of those seams, it may cause a problem. Yeah, so just make sure that if you do those seams, you select everything that we have here. So okay, once again the line, mark seam, okay, and now we should have two properly unwrapped objects. If I now select everything and press unwrap once again, we have something like this. Yeah, so what did it give us? Basically right now we can see that first of all the first island is this one, yeah, and this is a whole island. It is not separated anymore because we set up that, okay, here should be the division. I will just even show the material. Okay, so this is the whole island. It is connected because we cut it only in this place. Yeah, so here is the cut on the outside. Here is one cap. Here is the other cap. Yeah, and here is the other beam. Of course, as you can see, it is not looking pretty good. So once again, you may either set it to look it like this, if you want. The caps are not that really important. It may be something like this, or just add a new material to that. It's nice. The overlapping UV is better to omit if you need them. If you don't, well, there is not much point in doing that. So basically, right now, from any side that you will look at this model, you will not see any problem because the seam was hidden. Yeah, and of course, if you do something like this, you may even, as I showed you previously, align everything in order to have perfect quads. And in these cases, if you do that manually, you can just then see that, okay, you have perfect shapes with a perfect layout. So if you want to draw something, you can just simply paint it over the 3D texture and you don't have to follow the pattern of the curvature. Yeah. So this is the second option of the UV editing. With the unwrap, it's kind of manual, but it provides you the best result. But sometimes it may get pretty much tiresome if you want to do that, because in this case, there is no really point in doing that because I won't be drawing anything on here on these textures. So there's always a point for the exercise, but in case I want to quickly just color everything, it would be much quicker if I use, for example, cube projection in this case. So what do you want to use? It's up to you. Yeah, either cube projection or the simple unwrap manual option. They're pretty much good tools. It is just some of them are suitable for better for other situations than the other. All right. So the last thing that is worth having a look at is over here. Yeah. So basically, if you select the model, once again, we will work with this beam. Just for an example, you can press a UV, and you can see here we have Smart UV project. Yeah, it's called Smart, and it's called Smart UV. Yeah, it should be working a bit better. It really doesn't. But what does it provide us? If we use that, it will open up a window, and we can see we have some configurations. What does it do? It asks us to insert some information, and using that information it will try to unwrap the whole model, the whole selected object, or several objects. If you select several objects, it will try to unwrap them perfectly on the image, yeah, on this UV square, in the way that there are no overlaps. Yeah, so basically, as you can see here, we have angle dimension 66, so it will try not to split anything that is smaller than the 66 angle, 66 degree angle. We can add island margins, so basically the distance between those created islands, as you can see here, yeah, the distances between those UV islands. For example, 001 would be nice. Let's see. Okay, yeah, press OK, and be something like this. In this case, it does kind of decent job. As we can see, it created things that we don't have any overlapping things in the texture. Yeah, as we have pretty simple model, it just looks really nice, and we even don't have such pieces that really occupy too much space or too little space. Yeah, because for example, it may split something in the way that, for instance, a part that occupies the biggest part of the model gets splitted into several small parts, and after placement them on the UV, they don't really occupy even a pixel of a texture, so the quality is pretty bad. Yeah, so it can be a good point how to start unwrapping manually the model, because it may define some shapes which could be better to split. Yeah, you don't have to really use that, but once again, if you want to do it fast, for example, here using this UV projection, you might then use these models to, for example, to paint them in Substance Painter or something like this. Yeah, where you have to quickly split something. Of course, it's still better to configure it manually, but if you want to just spend more time, for example, working in there, you can just quickly use that Smart UV project. It will plot you perfectly everything, at least hopefully perfectly. Yeah, but sometimes you still have to tweak some things out. So once again, it is up to you. Yeah, so Smart UV project allows you to plot things on one texture, and in this case, if it does, it may be tiresome to connect, let's say, adjust the texture to the pattern. Yeah, so in this case, pretty easy. If the model is much more complicated, it could become problematic. Yeah, because you won't have much place to rotate models. Yeah, so this is kind of a specific tool for a specific purpose to quickly plot it everything on the image. Yeah, and of course we will use that when we will try to bake some textures. So we'll have a look at that in the next video in more details, okay, on its applications. So for now, I will stick to the usage of this layout that we have made previously. Alright, so one more thing just for information. So if you have something like this, for example, such a model, and you have two different materials on there, and as you can see here, the Grace material has a pretty good UV. Yeah, this metal material is kind of nice, but the frame is not good enough. So basically what you can do, you can just get in there, select the whole this frame. If it's not connected to the object, or if they are separated by seams, you can just simply select it, or simply not select, even just hover your mouse cursor over it, press L on the keyboard, and it should, once again, the same as in the UV layout, it should allow you to select the whole connected model. So right now you can just simply like cube projection. Okay, it works kind of nice, but not really specifically. In this case, most probably you will have to split it somehow, like here. Mark it as a seam. Once again, unwrap, and it does something like this. Okay, so it just like plots the whole model here. As far as I remember, there is nothing in there, so it's not connected. We can check. So here in the end, it's not connected. So basically one cut is just enough. But in order to make it follow the curve, we most probably have to repeat the operation with the active quotes over here. Once again, it doesn't mean that you have to do that every time. At some point, you may realize that it's not really doing any good in some cases. So you just have to know when it will be good for you, and the only way to know that is to test and see how it looks like. Okay, so in this case, it looks kind of appropriate. Yeah, so we have those patterns around the circle, so it's kind of nice. Alright, so I have already painted everything with materials. I added some textures everywhere. So basically what we have to remember to sum things up, if you have something like this, of course they look kind of nice. Those didn't really match up, so most probably I will have to increase the scale somehow like this. So here it looks kind of decent, not the best way, but just for the quick setup of like 5 to 10 minutes is kind of nice. So what we have to have a look at here. So basically, as you can see, almost each of the models has such a problem that it gets outside. Okay, here it is, does not. In this case, it didn't select anything. Okay, we have just cubes. So this model is okay. Here, this okay. Okay, so almost all the models that we have here go outside of the boundaries of the texture. So what does it mean? It means that, of course, nothing here is visible. It's still after the texture after you get somehow outside the texture, it will get looped to the other side. So basically, you can just imagine as if it was an infinite canvas of repetition of the texture, yeah, of the same image. So basically, here you don't see anything, but in case you will want to edit this texture somehow, add some details, paint something, etc., you may have a problem that it should be visible on several parts of the model. Yeah, so basically it's not that way. If you just want to apply that and use that, of course you want, you can just right now export everything, for example, to Unity, to Unreal, and after you add these textures, you will get the same view, the same result as we have here. Yeah, but the only problem is that as you have increased the amount of texture this much manually, it may be problematic to adjust other types of textures to this model. Yeah. So in Unreal or in Unity, you will just have to manually adjust tiling of textures in order for them to match the size of it. Yeah. So basically, right now, after it is set up, it is pretty much ready for the export if you want to do it right now. If not, you can work even more on this topic. So basically, in the next videos, we will have a look at what we can do to increase its quality and to add more details to that. Alright, so one more thing before we finish is that right now we have added those textures, but if for some reason we will move the texture away from the place there where it is right now on our computer, for example, change the folder or change the name of the folder or move it somewhere, I don't know where. If we change something, or if we can move the Blender file to another computer, yeah, I will lose the references to those textures. So basically everything will get pink, signalizing that there is an error and we have to fix that. How we can omit this thing? In order to store information on those textures that are imported in Blender, in the Blender project, you have to go here to File, you have this external data fold out, and you have some options here. You can either set it to automatically pack resources, so anything you add later will be automatically packed, and you won't have to really care whether you have packed everything or not in order not to miss anything. But in this case, if you add something that you don't need, it may be problematic then later. Of course, you can unpack it, yeah, but in case you add anything that you don't need, it will be also packed automatically, yeah. So here right now we can pack resources by hand. If I do that, we can see it packed 16 files. So basically all the textures that are in use of Blender file are now packed. And right now, if I would like to send this, for example, Blender file anywhere else to anybody, after they open it up, they will see the exact same thing that we have here, yeah, without any problems with texturing. Alright, so that's pretty much it concerning this, let's say, most tiresome and most difficult part of the 3D modeling of like the UV layout. Yeah, the texturing is not that problematic, but the unwrapping of the models on the UV in order for it to be usable later and optimal, well, it is kind of tough and problematic depending on the complexity of your model, of course. Yeah, but the beginning, the basics of it are pretty simple. So I suppose this was right enough information for you to get started with your own projects. So if you found this video interesting or any helpful, give a like, post a comment, and of course subscribe. So thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.